like smoking, now enjoy the program. Thank you for being part of the Cigar Club fam.
What's going on, Cigar Club family? Welcome back to another Cigar Club podcast. I'm David Pugh. Joining me, as always, is Griff Howie, and we've got two extra special guests today. We've got Luis. We've got Alec. We are at, there's no sign above me.
No, there's a sign right over there.
There's a sign over there. We are at Casa Cuevas headquarters here down in Miami, Florida. Blending Customs 2023. We've got 3 blends in front of us. But before we really get into those nitty gritty details, real casual,
you know. Yeah, I got it.
There's a idiot behind the mic right now.
That is correct.
How are we doing? Gentlemen, thank you for having us here. We're really excited for this opportunity.
I ashed it.
Please, burn holes in it. We get new mics if that's the case.
I'm great. I mean, we're great, and we're really thrilled that you guys came to see us. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, come on. That's easy.
We've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we appreciate it a lot. It's too bad you guys are only here for just one more night.
I know. It always seems to be like we have these quick trips, and then we're always like, I wish we had more time. But you got to get in as much as you can and take the time that you have. So
take the most.
So we've got number 1 lit up.
Lit up. Hey, see, it's not just me. Thank you, Griff.
This is really good.
My dad's really happy with this one. It's the house blend. The others were blended separately. Obviously, they're different, right? 1, 2, and 3. But my father goes, I really, really think they're going to dig this. So he happened to leave yesterday. If not, it would have been cool.
Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah, that would have been neat.
How often does he come over?
Every 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Wow.
That's a lot of travel.
Yeah, well, when my mom and him lived in the DR, and then the pandemic hit. So they have a house here about a block away from where we live.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
And then mom decided not to go back anymore. So he sold the house over there. They downsized, and he comes every 2 weeks.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a consistent schedule.
Oh, yeah. Yep. He's got everything pre-booked already, literally for every 2 weeks.
Really?
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Hop on the plane, hop over the pond.
Yep. It's an hour and a half flight.
Yeah.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that we're here in
nothing.
Miami. It's not Atlanta where it's 4 hours and a layover.
No, literally an hour and a half.
Yeah. That makes it a lot easier.
It makes it a lot easier. The only bad thing is, the only game in town is American Airlines. So if you book the flight too close to sometimes the tickets will double, triple in price.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes sense. So we are smoking blend 1 here. Our idea going into this, Griff and I, were intentional. We wanted to have a Connecticut or a more mild to medium cigar, but we wanted complexity. We wanted body. I think the biggest issue that we have with Connecticut's that are out there are just they're flat, right? They're
blown air.
They're not really for the cigar smoker. I feel like they're just for people who want to maybe have something. And so we wanted to really approach this and bring forth a Connecticut that we would want to smoke daily, not just with coffee, but something you could smoke after a meal, an anytime day cigar. So I think that was the initial approach idea behind this one. What is the blend breakdown of what we're smoking now?
That is the simplest of the blends. So they all have Ecuadorian Connecticut, right? Connecticut's, we don't use it all, and it's prohibitively expensive, upwards $40, $50 a pound.
Wow.
So everyone kind of stepped away from that, and they're using Ecuadorian Connecticut. The binders are Dominican.
Okay.
And the blend inside is really simple. It's Dominican and Nicaraguan.
Okay.
So very, very simple. There's a little more complexity in the others. Matter of fact, I had the notes, and when you guys came in right now, I made sure I wrote everything down again so I knew what the heck I was saying. But just the quality of tobacco is actually very good, I think. And we pride ourselves in our core line and in our Reserva line when we speak to people, say this is a smoker's Connecticut because of what you said.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's what you want, not just air. You don't want a chest buster.
Yeah.
No, for
but
sure.
by the same token, you just want to blow air.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You want something more than just tobacco.
No, you're smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
Super creamy. I'm getting this pepper on the back of my tongue now.
Yeah. When I did the cold draw, it was super fruity, which I assume is that Dominican binder.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I didn't do the cold draw, and I should have done it first. So rookie mistake on my part.
Me too. Didn't do it.
Simple, go figure.
One of my favorite, I'd love the Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. Was one of the cigars that I blended last year, used it, and I usually enjoy a good Ecuadorian Connecticut. So to see 3 different iterations here, really excited to see just how blending the changes will with just the binder and
I'm
filler.
interested also in seeing the differences between the 3. I know they are different. I'm looking forward to doing this.
Have you
It's been a while
smoked
since we blended anything like this.
Yeah. Have you done? I assume you've smoked one before since you called it
I
a house
smoked, it's
blend.
a house blend. I've smoked one before.
Have you tried 2 or 3 yet?
2
or
and 3?
today?
Nope.
Ooh,
Those are brand new ones.
that's
So it's the
exciting.
first time for us, too.
That's exciting.
I can't tell you the last time I smoked a Connecticut cigar.
That's the thing with me too. And
I
then,
mean-
you know, we come out with new stuff, and it was a Corojo, and then it was a Cameroon, and so we've not gone to the Connecticut side in years.
Yeah.
The last time we came out with anything Connecticut was 2019.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's easily 8+ months.
You
unless
probably Origin.
well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Origin would have been the last probably Ecuador in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which was a cigar blended.
Right on.
2022 custom. So, and
That's awesome.
so yeah, I think maybe I'm completely wrong, but I feel like a lot of people have moved away from Connecticut. So maybe that's the industry, not necessarily trying to reflect that. But
You know what's interesting though? Our biggest sellers really are Connecticut's. When people go to let's say a store to buy boxes for a wedding,
Yeah.
or whatever it may be, if there's a seasoned smoker there, it may not be their favorite, but they're willing to smoke it.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
if
a
it's
good
a
point.
new smoker, they're not afraid.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right? That perception that the dark, oh my God, it's going to be too strong. So it kind of fits the bill on both ends.
Sure.
And if you are a seasoned smoker and you grab a good Connecticut, you're going, all right, I can do this.
Yeah.
And you're not offending the other guy who's a newbie and he's afraid that, he's going
and
to
you
be
don't
too,
want
too
to
strong. Or
You don't want to
whatever.
turn him off of never smoking cigars again because he's like,
course.
I didn't like this cigar. This is
That's it.
the guy told me that this was a mild cigar, and they hate it because either you added too much complexity to it or too much umph, or it was just nothing, right? It was just air.
Yeah.
And so you can't turn away those new cigar smokers. So I imagine that can be difficult.
There is definitely time and place. I will say when I golf, which is rare, but
Yes.
I will smoke a Connecticut.
For golf, that's what I smoke. And I'm terrible at it. My wife's
Me too.
phenomenal. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
So, whenever I do golf, it's Connecticut. I don't bring a Maduro with me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like sweating and smoking.
No,
a
come on.
Maduro.
I mean,
Yeah, that's not going to be fun.
no.
But yeah, creamy. I get a little citrus on the nose. Super clean.
Yeah, I get
mean,
citrus too.
there's long finish, but it's not a lingering finish. If that kind of contradicts itself, but
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Impeccable
That's-
burn.
That's my grandfather's shtick, so to speak. Considering it is the house blend, it's something that he'll viably gravitate towards essentially the entire time that we're at the office over there in
really?
the factory. He'll go through, I want to say 5 is like the average form over there, something like
Give or
that.
take.
Yeah, like 5 to 7 is more or less
Really?
the take, but he's a Connecticut smoker all the way through, and he just loves it. He loves
Man.
it.
that's exciting.
That's crazy.
So, speaking of blending cigars, man to my right here, if you're watching, the newly found blend. Talk to us about that. I'm talking to the damn coffee cup.
It's all right.
Talk to us.
You're doing it again.
Yeah, well, that was on purpose. Talk to us about your blending experience now and the success of your cigar. Like how was that? How did that come about? And what have you learned so far about that process?
The utmost respect to fellow manufacturers and brand owners alike, first and foremost. I always like to say that just on a beginning notion, because crafting something quite literally from the ground up, no pun intended, is tedious. It took a good couple of months, longer than usual, as a matter of fact, to actually get the blend other way. And that was because my grandfather would be coming back into the States every weekend and then gone every 2 weeks or so. But the blending process, as tedious as it was a blast. I mean, I think it'd be remiss to say that I don't have a good time when it comes to smoking a plethora of cigars, knowing
Yeah.
that you're going to get a good outcome
Yeah.
with a nice, well-balanced complexity to the cigar. I've always been a sucker for Cameroon. So the cigar in question is Sangre Nueva. Which
Thank
is,
you. I was going to have you say it because I butcher it every time, and you just sound so elegant saying it. So I was going to leave that one up for you.
It essentially represents new blood. But that's not in relation, which is something interesting that most individuals, when I bring this up to, don't take into consideration. I'm not referring to myself in this regard. Yes, my father would, for example, in relation to it being my blend, but I do it in the sense where there is a future generation of smokers coming into the fray of things, and I wanted the opportunity to have those individuals in question, my age, walk into a humidor and at the very least not feel intimidated by something that if you'd like to call it the stereotype, is considerably for the more experienced or for the individuals that have a celebratory notion with cigars.
Certainly.
I feel as if this is one of those things in particular that can fit all bills, depending on your palate. But that being said, it's a tremendous industry, the culture to be had. I mean, everything's done on a handshake.
Yeah.
That's why I named it New Blood. Also, due to the notion that going throughout this industry and going through my experiences, especially being alongside my father, who's an amazing mentor, and my grandfather by default, I was always called a young buck, young blood. It was always something in relation to blood and just being young as a whole. And it would come up time to time again on different interviews, even on personal handshake notions with patrons and actual shop owners alike and whatnot. So that being said, it got to the point where after hearing it for the billionth time, my father said, you know what, all jokes aside, I think you should. I feel as if you have the palate for it. Your grandfather certainly feels like you're ready for it. I think you should do it. And for the longest time, I've always wanted to use Cameroon. Cameroon's tricky. I know you guys know this for a fact. Obviously, we do as well. African Cameroon is predominantly really owned by one particular family, truth be told, and it's extremely expensive and very hard to get consistency-wise.
Yeah.
So we never really dove into, excuse me, that sort of blending process, considering those notions, unless I wanted to come out with something limited. In this case, I didn't.
Sure.
So fast forward, we end up going to the Oliva Cigar Group over in Tampa, not to be associated with the brand itself. And these individuals are huge purveyors of Ecuadorian tobacco. So normally, for example, Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, we get from them, as well as our Habano Ecuadorian wrapper as well, things of that nature. He happened to have had the person there, Ecuadorian Cameroon. And that caught my attention immediately. Right?
Yeah.
I gravitated straight towards it. I remember looking at the leaf and thinking it was beautiful. And that's kind of the baseline for Sangre Nueva. It was about 14 blends all the way through. It took about 8 to 9 months to truthfully finish. But everything from the coloration to the motto, I mean, is a huge tribute not only towards the lineage that was before me, something that I wish I was able to experience, and yet, given circumstances, I wasn't born yet, so I couldn't, right? But it was also a testament towards, truth be told, the passion I carry for this line of work. It's something that I feel a lot of younger folks look at in a sort of bizarre way. You don't tend to see a younger individual when it comes to smoking cigars, let alone blending cigars.
Yeah.
And yet I grew up with this. I mean, this is what I love. So to be granted that opportunity to me was huge. It was huge.
And the validation of both your father and grandfather saying, "Hey, you're ready."
Yeah.
Like, that's a.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I mean,
I got goosebumps from that.
it's cool, and to give Alec all the credit he deserves on this, he had worked at a retail shop here, which is enormous. They carry everything, and he worked there for almost a year. So part of what they asked him to do as the one who's greeting the customers and is going to sell cigars is smoke everything. Smoke through everything. So he'd come home at night.
job.
And,
Darn.
Yeah, right?
Job and a
He'd come
half.
home at night and go, I smoked this, I smoked that, I smoked the other. So he smoked a wider variety of cigars than I have. I smoked more cigars because I'm older,
Sure.
obviously. But he has smoked a wider variety than my father has as well. So my dad normally doesn't go out and buy cigars. Everything's what's ever being made at the factories, what he'll smoke, and predominantly Connecticut's.
Yeah.
But this kid had smoked a bunch of different things. So he had an idea of what he wanted, and that was kind of cool to be able to, pass the baton on to him and go, you run with it. See what you think you're going to like.
Crazy.
So
It was fun.
It worked out.
In relation towards being at that location, at that retail location, close to about a year fully, smoking everything on their shelves alone. And I'm talking every Vitola and every big name brand to even some more known boutiques. Everything that they've carried on their walls took me about, I want to say 7 months, and that was a cigar a day.
And it's not just smoking cigars. It's smoking the cigar,
Focusing.
recalling the
Yeah.
cigar, being able to make, if you smoked cigar A and the customer smoked D, and they're looking for something new, to then take that profile or that cigar that they enjoy, and then be able to make a recommendation basis. So it's not even just, I smoked this cigar. It's you're constantly either
Just-
taking notes or having to recall that.
You need to.
Yeah, that's
You need to, David.
We talk about that a lot of the time. It's like, sure, you can go smoke a cigar and you're working and not focusing on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's so much fun when we can actually sit outside,
Yeah.
not do anything, put your phone down, and just smoke and focus and pick up the transitions. And that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a pretty tedious job. He kept that memory bank going because we'll do an event somewhere, and someone will come up and say, "Tell me about your line." And the first question, the easiest question, is, "What do you normally smoke?"
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So he'll start with that, and they'll bust out with, "I smoke brand X," and then this guy will go, "Well, the Maduro or the Habano
Yeah.
or this one," and he'll break it down, and he goes, "Okay, but was it the Robusto or was it the Torpedo or the Double Perfecto?" He'll start going into all these,
crazy.
I'm a
and
cigar
then he
nerd.
engages the consumer, and the consumer understands that
I'd
he knows
been
what he's
before.
talking about, and he remembers, and he goes, "Okay, in our lineup, I think that this will probably fit that flavor
Yeah,
profile."
that's such a great.
Did you keep a
ability to
journal
have.
or anything?
No, although interesting concept. We were doing events over there in the Pennsylvania/Ohio territory, and there was an individual, shout out to Aaron if you are watching this in particular, that had a journal already listed.
Yeah.
And with the band and everything else, I thought it was incredible
Yeah.
to have that notion. But I mean,
Yeah.
truth be told, I still to this very day, I mean, this morning I was smoking an Aladino. I want to say it was a Lancero size, but it was a little bit smaller than that, one of the shorter sticks. Yesterday I was smoking El Huehuense
Yeah.
in their double. Yeah, so
cigar.
I like to say that I'm
That's
very
awesome.
unbiased as a smoker. We both like to say, truth be told, that we're smokers before brand owners for the same reason.
Yeah.
And it does help in relation towards the sale aspect of things. An individual likes that
Yeah.
Melanio Serie V.
He goes and he buys the cigars. I wait for friends of mine to give me the free ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice to support the shop in particular,
Yeah.
and then also
yeah,
to
yeah,
a
that is
fault-
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to see what they have new. I mean, I'm still very much similar to craft beer in that regard, right? I'm
Sure.
still very much a fan of discovering, is there something new out there?
Yeah.
There was something new yesterday from LFD, and I won't go too much into that in particular, but I remember picking up that cigar because we were told the price point and everything else. It's unbanded and everything. And it was like one of those things that you wouldn't expect to find in such a location well stocked
Right,
like
sure.
that. And sure enough, I mean, that little cigar, for what it was worth, it was like a Corona Vitola, carried a spice.
Oh my
kick
god,
to
it was incredibly strong.
And what's cool
It's-
about something like that is you smoke that and that gets the wheels turning.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, like I smoke something new, I enjoy it. I'll go look up, the makeup of the cigar, and I get those wheels turning of like, oh wow, that's if I know which tobacco was maybe pulling out that certain note or something like that, it gets the wheels turning of like, ooh, how could we utilize that?
Yep.
And maybe change the profile of the blend or maybe make it more towards your liking. So I like that aspect where you're kind of seeing what's out there, seeing what other people are pushing, and then use that to kind of push yourself. Well, Griff's underway. Let's get number 2
Yeah, we get number 2 going.
going
Right on.
here.
I'm curious. You want one?
Not. That was a good catch, man. Right on. I'm excited.
Let's see how different it is.
Thank you, sir.
I'm curious.
Cold draw. Just past that.
It's the cold draw. It's not for nothing, but
Man loves to smoke, so he just gets right at it.
I think cold draws are crucial. Grassy notes.
they really they showcase certain things in the cigar that you might not be able to pick up on the initial light.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You know, we got one lighter. And
If you're looking for your light, it's right there.
Yeah.
You did not lose it.
I got matches.
You'd be surprised for being in this office space with a plethora of cigars. You'd figure we'd have more lighters in
Oh,
here.
my brother gives me shit about that all the time. He's every time we go to like light the fire or something, I'm like, scrounging for something, basically like whittling sticks to create flame. You'd think that we'd have 15 cutters, 15 lighters. I don't have anything.
No, because then you're just the more you have, you've got to keep up with them, right? It's just like hoarding. So I have a lighter and I have a backup lighter for when I lose that one or I break it, and then I'll just buy a new one and have 2 in hands.
At the very least.
Yeah,
Always come prepared.
constant theme. Everyone's blending in Toro so far.
Yeah.
We always start with Toros. I don't know why the hell they made Robustas for us. Yeah, whatever, it's fine.
No, it's always
number
something-
3 is a Robusto, right? I saw
Yeah.
the size now, but yeah, we always blend with a Toro, and then from there you either go down if you're going to a smaller Vitola, or you increase it if you're going to do a 60. But I don't know if people know this or not. You have to reblend everything.
Yeah.
You can't use proportions and think it's going to work, especially for the 60. Especially for a 60.
it's one of those things that it just carries, well, viably, it carries more filler, just given the gauge, right? So that's something
The
that's
wrapper gets a lot
interesting.
more lost in a 60 than it does, let's say, in a 50. Obviously.
Nonstop
Yeah, I'm
gas.
digging number 2 more than number 1 so
Yeah,
far.
I am too. I'm trying to keep my thoughts until
Number 2's got a Nicaraguan binder, same fillers as the other, but it's also got Colombian in it.
Which is that little
Mm-hmm.
floral aroma you pick. I
It,
picked it up.
sort
on
of
a cold
mitigates the. I like using Colombian. It mitigates a bit of the bitterness that you get from the Ecuadorian Connecticut. I think anyway.
Yeah, going back to the blending and Toro, that's something that we've kind of learned, I guess. I always assumed Robusto was the starting point for a blend, right? Like, to me, that was the middle ground of the size. And then, after this trip, everyone's been doing Toros, and I constantly bringing it back up. And I've learned
he's about to light his
like,
fingers on fire.
it makes sense, right? Like, this is from here, it's easier to go up and it's easier to go down than it is a Robusto, where you may be going 2 or 3, or I guess 2, 4, 6 up, and vice versa. So, and it definitely changed the way that I view having a starting blend. Is
Yeah,
doing
we
a Toro,
usually
not a Robusto.
always start with Toros.
This is delicious.
This one I like better than number 1.
Yeah.
But that also goes back to the statement in which, not necessarily the majority of the industry now currently going forward, but more so that because everybody carries that experienced palate, this fits the bill more than, let's say, the Connecticut does. Because the Connecticut still carried its nuance, in my opinion.
I mean, number 1. They're all Connecticut's.
number
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Number one.
Pardon, yeah.
Yeah, number 1 seemed to be a little. Now thinking back on, a little more harsh than this one.
Yeah, this has.
Yeah, I would
just
agree.
Right off the bat, this is more complex than 1. That Colombian is.
It had that twist, and that's what that is.
Yeah, as soon as I don't. I'm sure I have, but I can't recall a cigar that I knowingly smoked that had Colombian in it.
We just put a little bit of it.
Yeah,
in Colombian. When you get Colombian tobacco, you just buy Colombian tobacco. Like you don't buy Colombian Seco or Viso or
Interesting.
Rolado, or you just it's like a one size fits all type of leaf.
Okay,
I'm not sure what it would taste like if you did a whole cigar with it.
sure.
I don't think it would work.
Yeah.
But as a component, kind of like what happened with Sangre Nueva.
I was gonna say that.
Yep. I was gonna make
Same
that
kind of
to
thing.
be fair.
Use a bit, and it's that one you
you
can
talk
be a little
about-
more lenient
Oh,
with
yes.
Sangre
At this
Nueva.
point.
That other component you can't put more than what we put.
A
in
bit goes a
because
long way.
it becomes-
So, speaking of adding a little bit of bit in there to kind of change it, turn it on its head, you did something similar.
Yes. So with the Sangre Nueva, there is a particular component inside the filler, which I know you guys were aware that at the PCA trade show, it was something I rather have given as a homework assignment rather than
Yeah.
speak about it outright. Simply because it's one of those types of tobaccos that is people genuinely adore it. People don't like it at all. There was no in between. And that's the Kentucky Fire Cured, which is American curated tobacco, right? I remember going through that process as well. We settled, or better said, I settled, but we all had the general agreement of blend number 10 being what is currently Sangre Nueva. But blend number 10 and blend number 11 were both experimental blends, with 11 carrying much more percentage base of it. To which my mom, for example, is a big fan of that sort of flavor. So that cigar
cool.
hit her bill right
Yeah.
off the bat.
Yeah.
Because I love the sensation and everything else. Whereas, interestingly enough, I'm not the biggest fan of Kentucky Fire Cured.
Yeah.
In the slightest. It's just one of those things where,
Interesting.
yeah, I would, going back to the retail location, right? I went through a good majority of the different vitolas that obviously that Jewish State offered and whatnot. And for whatever reason, it didn't resonate with me in the same sense of having just a premium cigar with
Sure.
good complexity and good body. However, finding it to be that blend number 10 only carried the tiniest sliver portion of it makes all the difference in the world. It just accentuated the rest of what the flavors had to offer.
Yeah, the Once by True Estate, I find it's almost too overpowering.
it's overwhelming.
It
And
causes
there's just people that love that.
It's a fire
No,
cure puro.
Yeah, pretty much.
pretty much. It
It's one big
I noticed
barbecue.
that it causes me to salivate a lot, and with
Just
that,
start drooling all over the place.
like it's almost it's too overpowering, and it just
work
goes
big.
nuts. Whereas with the sliver that you add, it gets your palate kind of running at full speed right away, and you're able to pick up more notes and more complexity. in the
And
cigar.
it literally, I know we spoke about this at the trade show. It literally is a filler. The way when rollers are bunching, they're not told what they're rolling. They're told how many leaves of whatever to use. So 2, 1, half, whatever. And they'll make their bunch, And when they roll it and they roll it back, there'll be gaps. In other words, they roll and they come back, and there'll be some spots, soft spots, and they'll grab from wherever they want to. So the one that we're using, the 2 and the 1.5, maybe they'll buy a little more of the half again, or they'll grab another one of.
Interesting.
You follow me? So no two cigars are ever the same.
You're right.
They're always
Sure.
going to vary a little bit. With the KFC, the only way you can control that is by telling them this little piece is all you're allowed to use. You're not allowed to use again. So you can, to fill in the little soft spots.
Oh, I see.
You can grab from the 2, the 1.5, and
Yeah.
but that one chunk, that's
it.
all you're allowed there, and that keeps it consistent.
Because
if not,
drastically change.
it will
that
change it.
cigar.
It will
Even
change
a
it
quarter
drastically.
extra or
Are
just a
people
little bit.
picking that flavor up? Are they asking you more so than they're telling you? Or
It's so funny you bring that up, Griff. So, considering how many individuals we've both explained this to at this point in relation to it being a homework assignment,
Yeah.
I want to say 4 out of, let's hypothetically here, let's say it was like,
100.
yeah, it was a lot of freaking people. I can't give you the direct number, obviously,
Sure.
right? But 4 quite literally picked it up off the bat.
Really?
Just from the cold draw, they're like, oh, I can tell.
Damn.
But regardless,
I
doing
haven't
the
cold
math,
draw that one. I think
if you do the
immediately
cold draw,
look-
you'll see
taste
it.
I
it.
think I'm.
Well, now that we know.
Yeah,
Nah,
well,
that's the
sure.
thing.
But I think that's also the last piece of tobacco that I would have ever assumed would have been used in a cigar. Like,
Part of our repertoire for sure.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, it's just that's not anything that would have been like, oh, if you're going to do fire coat tobacco, like that's the predominant, right? That's the forefront of a cigar. So to
Yeah.
have that be added to it and really, as we were talking, like completely change. Especially, I think you had a whole leaf and then a half leaf on one of
Yep.
the blends, and the changes that does.
Oh,
is-
it's tremendous.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. All of it going through. I think if anything else, it's fun in that aspect, especially when you have those individuals smoke it down to essentially the nub. They enjoy it and they come back with their own thoughts and ideas about
Yeah.
it. And then when you tell them what it is, they're like, I should have known. You know,
I
one
think
of
we
those
said that.
things.
Yeah, it's as soon as you told us at the show, I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
I thought we
makes
passed that test, but I don't
No.
think we did.
This
most
is
people didn't.
this is a creamy smoke.
Yeah, I like this one much better than
This
number
is
one.
really really.
Do any
good.
of y'all's core lines use any Colombian tobacco?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I have knowingly smoked it, but or
Yeah.
I have smoked it, but not knowingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, essentially all of our core line in relation towards our regular
Connecticut's,
Habano,
I
Connecticut.
stick in the Colombian in there. I like Colombian. It
Yeah.
works well with Connecticut. It just does. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't really affect it. I don't know.
I mean,
but
I think it does.
I think it
Nuance
does.
wise.
I think even if it quote unquote doesn't, like it balances and rounds the blend, so it does in that sense. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, going back to one here.
doing the taste test. You're picking up a lot more flavors personally on the Retro Hill with number 2 than number 1. I know that much for a fact.
The retro on this cigar is like milky, the milk after cereal.
Okay.
Like it's slightly sugary. I guess you could call it like condensed milk, maybe, but it's not as thick as condensed milk. But it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's almost like a sweetness to it.
But that's that Colombian. It goes back to, let's say, the aroma aspect of things. The difference is incredible.
Yeah, it's very. Number one is still very, very good.
Yeah, number one
the
is,
microphone.
I mean, I think
Shouldn't
they're all
have to
smokers, Connecticut's, right?
Burning hot ash on me.
So number 2, other than Colombian, any other differences?
Nicaraguan, Dominican, and then the binder's different. It's Nicaraguan binder.
Got it.
Number one's good though.
I know.
Number one's really good. I can see that you said this is your dad's like daily smoke.
Yeah, my dad loves number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I can
He's
easily see
really happy with the quality.
that.
Of
You
the
can smoke it
tobacco.
while working, not have to think about it. Like
Yeah, he really likes Connecticut's a lot. When he comes over to the house, even at the as just, my son was saying, at the factory at his house in Dominican, it's Connecticut's.
Really? What's his favorite core line?
The Connecticut.
Is it?
yeah,
Guess that makes sense.
that was a great toss up there.
Well, he does particularly have a huge fondness for our Reserva Natural in particular. So that is, he before the Reserva Natural, that blend initially came out in 2005, right? And then relaunched again 2019 under a different title as a whole. But my grandfather was then using that house blend and whatnot, and then Core Line Connecticut came out, and that became his go-to for a good portion of time up until we relaunched the Reserva series, and that Natural is thick as thieves with him and his palate. Something else he genuinely enjoys.
Man, number 2 is really, really good.
Yeah, number 2 is very, very smooth. Lots of flavor, more complexity. It's
Yeah.
it's good.
And it's also just completely different than any other Connecticut that I've smoked it before. Like
Okay, cool.
It's not to the point of the kind of the idea behind it. This is spot on. Like this was exactly what the intention behind.
I'm glad.
What we were looking for. So I'm really curious to see. I'm going to light up 3, just because I want to.
I'm curious to see 3.
I want to see.
I'm a little disappointed it came out as a Robusto, although that is my favorite Vitola, Robusto. I like the Robustos in all of our lines more than anything else.
Yeah, no, you get the old Edward Scissorhands going on.
Oh, we're very used to this. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I can get you guys, by the way, number 3 in a Toro size as well.
Yeah,
I'll simply ask my father
from
to,
here
to make you some.
because I think we will also want to do unique sizes as well. So we'll maybe whatever we land on, we'll maybe see. Hey, will this work in
Sure.
whatever? Right, and there's
can
kind
play.
of some funness to it, and see what we can do.
We can play.
Yeah, exactly. I love that's a playground.
It's a playground.
Oh,
I was distracted when you said funness.
yeah, sure. Blame me. No, it's
Caught
okay.
me off guard.
How would you like me to say it, Griff?
More fun?
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize that.
We all know you speak great English, so
Yeah. More fun.
More fun, not funness. It's okay. It's all right. I'm
we
gonna
won't judge you.
Yeah, I was about to.
We'll just call you out.
For that, you'll get the lighter last.
All right, I'll go back to number 2 then.
I feel like number 3 is gonna have
So-
more of a kick.
I'm asking.
Go ahead.
I'm always curious, anybody and everybody. Some of y'all's go-to, because what I've found out, go-to and favorite cigars are different. On your core line, what's your go-to cigar, and what's your favorite cigar? And if they could be the same.
Yeah.
My go-to.
You get home and you want to smoke Casa Cuevas.
Okay, in relation to what I normally end up gravitating towards, it's the it's the Flacos.
Yeah.
So, but the Flaco specifically in that Habano with the Habano blend is. I have a story behind that one as well. It was one of the very few moments. I'm somewhat biased in this regard, where I remember the Flaco when they were initially launched. My grandfather and I was sitting outside with my father. We have this little side area in our house, to which we all would meet up there and we'd smoke into the evening, going into nighttime.
That's good too.
During that process, he gave it to me with no words and essentially said, "This is named after you," considering how skinny I am and whatnot, right? And I remember, oh, thank you, and smoking it. My father took a photo, but it wasn't up until a little bit after that notion where we were in the Dominican Republic in my grandfather's old house, and we got back from the factory. My father and my grandfather had another business venue for dinner that they had to go to, so they left me at the house. What happened?
Well, I'm thinking out loud. I still prefer number 2. Keep going.
So I
I was going like this. so-
And I was then left at the house. Normally, my grandfather just enjoys smoking inside the house, something that we can't do at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's just one of those things. It's nice. And he had this rocking chair, I believe. I don't know if he still does, but he had it literally right outside it, right? He doesn't have it anymore. And I remember sitting out there watching the sunset, smoking that cigar, and it kind of hit me like an epiphany. That was his way of kind of telling me, hey, welcome to the business.
Oh,
You're going to
that's
be a
cool.
lot more hands-on. Your father's entrusting you with this as well.
Man.
That was, and no words were spoken. It was quite literally just over a cigar. So that cigar, whenever I have the opportunity to sit down, smoke it, and enjoy myself, I very much enjoy it. That would be my go-to Casa Cuevas.
Dang.
Now
What an
it would be
answer.
Sangre Nueva.
Sure.
Truth be told, that is my morning smoke, interestingly enough. But in relation to favorite cigars, you guys got me beat because I have a shit ton, to
Yeah.
be fair. I would say from a Connecticut standpoint, and one that really blew my socks off, I've mentioned this a million times before, Southern Draw, the Rose of Sharon. That medium
like that
plus
one,
that
don't
it
you?
has.
Yeah.
That's one of his favorites.
That one, I
like that one.
It's amazing.
It's a really good
tremendous.
cigar.
Yeah.
What caught my attention more often than not about that stick was honestly the presentation. It was the pink band that it
yeah,
carried.
it looks really good on that
Yeah.
wrapper. For
It
sure.
just stood out. And I was at the same notion that when I was back at the retail location that they had it officially launched in Lancero size. And I was like, oh, that's my go-to. I love
Yeah.
Lanceros.
Yeah.
And I remember picking it up, and at that point, it was essentially being pushed out like hotcakes at that location. But it was because I kept on telling individuals, if you want to make that transition to a blowing air Connecticut to a smoker's Connecticut, pick this guy up. It would change your perception entirely of what a Connecticut could be.
By the way, what's screwed up there is at that point, that store is carrying our stuff. So you'd figured he'd go, hey, by the way, I'm Alec Cuevas.
Right.
And but no.
The thing was, I would
he's selling
do that.
Southern Draw. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
I would do that. So and this is the interesting notion of this, right? Because I'd come home with all these stories, and my father would be like, "All right, but did you push our stuff?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, of course I did." I pushed everything across the lines, but I'm serious when I say I'm very unbiased as a smoker.
That's
I
cool.
mean,
Well, that helps too. When you that's that immediate trust. Like, hey, he could be pushing me this, but he's
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's helped
knowing
a lot.
what. Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a few
You certainly
individuals.
gain more credibility as a
for sure.
That's the thing.
As a tobacconist.
Some people would come in
Exactly.
then at that point mentioning that sort of thing, and then having them go and find something similar within their palate that's new to them.
Yeah.
They'd come back and they'd purchase a couple boxes of Casa Cuevas, and then they would fall in love with it by default, and
Yep.
then there would be regular pickups in relation to that, while also grabbing something else that fit their bill.
Yeah, that's great.
So it was a nice leeway into both.
The Flaco Maduro to me is just so up my alley.
That's the one I like. I don't care for the Habano, but I don't like Habanos necessarily very much.
Yeah.
Like, I stay away from our line.
Forget.
From the Habanos. Not my. The only Habano I like in our line that I really go to is La Mandaria, the Sledgehammer. That one I really enjoy. The other Habano that we have in the core line, it's not my favorite,
And that's okay.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Right now, my favorite is Sangre Nueva for sure. I really, really, really like that cigar a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
really,
every time
really
I smoke, I go, this is bloody delicious.
Are you hearing anything about size preferences with that cigar?
Yes. So there's a reason that the. Oh, you got it. Perfect. Thank you. I've been saying this time and time again. I love that double perfecto.
Yeah.
It's in part also due to one of the very first double perfectos I ever smoked, which was the Rocky Patel 55. I initially thought it was plugged, considering it was my first double perfecto.
Oh, interesting.
But once it opened up on you, that's where the whole blossoming concept came into effect
Right.
Yeah.
in my mind. So I personally love that size, mostly because it gives you crisp, and I mean really crisp transitions. You're gonna pick up that Kentucky Fire Cured right off the bat, considering it's so
narrow taper.
exactly. But then as it opens up, you start tasting less of it and more of the rest of the flavors the cigar has to offer.
Makes sense.
And I've been hearing that during local events, as well as some out in other locations in other states, in which I'd recommend it. The individuals then would gravitate either towards that one because they trust me in particular, or they'll go for the Robusto and then pick it up after the fact. And more often than not, I hear that they prefer that double perfecto, simply because it gives you that transition. That complexity is very much there with that Vitola.
So with that double perfecto, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
That's
off.
okay.
That sliver of fire cure is the same sliver throughout the whole
Yes.
cigar. So when you're getting that very initial puff of it, the other filler ratios are going to be much smaller. Wrapper's going to be obviously smaller. Your binder's going to be smaller. So it's able to pick up that.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
So that's it's.
Yeah, I mean, when we sold out of the initial, we talked about this earlier. The initial shipment that we got, we sold out in a couple of weeks, and the first thing that sold out was Toro, because Toro's still king, right? Toro's a very popular size. As more and more people have smoked the double perfecto, that seems to be the one.
Interesting.
That's going to be because even we had an event here when we launched it locally here in Miami, and there's a particular individual who says the only boxes we had left at that point were double perfectos. Everything else was gone. And he says, I don't like 60s. I go, I don't like 60s. I go, you know me, I'm going to be here all night anyway.
Yeah.
Give it a go. I go, because it tapers at the end, and it's a 58. Between a 58 and a 60, there's 1/32 of an inch literally diameter. It's nothing. I go, give it a go. You're going to be, sure enough, the guy came back, he bought a box, fell in love with it.
Oh, that's great.
So there's something about that size that is not that 60. I don't like Habanos too much. I don't like 60s. We carry them because they sell. But a 60 gauge is just not my thing.
Yeah.
That Perfecto, wow. That,
I think
it
for
just
that,
works.
being a double perfecto, for me, a lot of my dislike of a 60 ring gauge is just it doesn't sit well in my mouth. It's the experience of it is not enjoyable, and so you get that taper, so it feels better as you're smoking.
It does.
I
agree.
But then you get the extra filler with that cigar. I can imagine. I haven't smoked the double perfecto, but I can. It makes sense.
We have a couple there remaining, loose sticks, that before you guys take off.
We might need to
Small.
open up the door. It's getting smoky in here.
No, we can't open up the door. Oh, that door? Yeah, that one.
No, no, not this one.
Not this one, because
We'll have some guests coming in.
yeah, The signs in Spanish, and the dude still tried to open the door. Yeah, I don't know if you guys.
I'm leaning towards number 3 right now.
Are you?
Can you give us the blend breakdown of 3?
Sure. It's a lower binder, same as number 1, but this one's got Pennsylvanian Broadleaf in it as well.
I think that's why.
This
is Broadleaf.
There was something that I was getting, and I wasn't sure. I thought it was maybe some Criollo or a Corojo that was cooked, because I was getting this spicy, fruity note. So I was curious to see what was. Obviously, I was dead wrong. And there's no shock there.
No, well, I think it's really hard to distinguish.
But if you
tobacco
don't try,
types.
you don't learn.
No, but it's really really hard.
This is.
And you can pick up ligero, you can pick up seco, but when you start getting nuanced, is it from Jalapa?
Right.
Is it from Esteli? I mean, give me a break. Is it Criollo 98, Piloto Cubano, Dominican blends, crops? It's really hard to distinguish.
Because there's a lot of
For
tobacco
me,
that's,
it is anyway.
that's very similar.
There's people out there that do it. I'm not that refined.
Yeah, it's that broadleaf that's hitting it for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That
It's
one's
like
got
the
the broadleaf.
best of both worlds.
Yeah. And it doesn't add strength, at least right off the first couple puffs. I mean, it's not like it's pushing it to,
Oh, no.
The opposite end of what you would expect.
It's very, very smooth.
Great flavor.
It has a lot of flavor.
Oh, my gosh.
It has a lot of flavor without that harshness
Yeah.
of number 1. You know what I mean? I thought number 1 was... Thinking back on number 1, it was a lot more harsh to me.
I agree.
It's definitely between
But
2
they're
and
all...
3.
I mean, they're
I
all...
hate to say-
You're smoking a cigar.
Number 1 is number 3 in my lineup. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
get you.
for sure.
And in my mind, too.
Yeah.
Mine, too.
Number 1, it's that allure binder that brings about that harshness.
Well, this one has a lure also, but that broadleaf, I think, just plays with it really
It
well.
works well.
Yes.
It's one of those. It's a primer, so to speak, in relation to the cigars. I think it gives it a nice little oomph.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the number 2 now to kind of.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
trying
just
to
went back to number 2 and
falling flat for you now.
Number 3 it is, huh?
this would be interesting in a Toro.
We'll get you some. I'll get you some. I'll have 'em. I'll have my dad. Our shipment's leaving today. We get it on Friday.
Really good.
But he'll fly in a couple of weeks and we'll bring in a bundle.
There's always 2 blends
always
that you come
something.
down to, and you're just like, what do I?
Always.
I'll tell him. I'll
But
call
it's
him
never
and have him
Every
make it.
cigar
Yeah.
that's ever come
It's
out.
never
there's always two.
bad to
You have 2 and 3?
Yeah, it's never bad to have 2 good options, right? Because then there's no bad choice.
Exactly.
It's just what are
Well,
we
I'm
looking
glad you
for?
guys are. I mean, I'm glad we hit what you all were aiming for.
Yeah,
Right.
right on its head, and it's different than anything that we've had previously,
Okay.
as far as that we've done with 4 customs, which I think is really great.
I could get around the whole Connecticut boat with number 3 for sure.
That's the thing.
It's got a lot of flavor.
Very much a,
lot
smoker's
of-
Connecticut.
God, but 2 is really good.
2 is good.
2 is really good.
Should be told. That's the interesting notion, and it's funny you bring that up, right? I feel as if the majority of individuals in question that come out with a particular cigar definitely had a close running second.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
were like, which one of the 2 are we going to shoot with? In our case, it was the number 3 and then the number 10 was Sangre Nueva, right? But same thing with Patrimonio, same thing with the Mandaria, which was a hefty amount of blending. That one took us, I want to say it was 20 blends in total, something like that.
No, it wasn't that many. If you remember, La Mandaria was done on the fly. We did it in a week.
I think.
Wow.
We did it in a week because we had gotten robbed.
Yeah.
and the trade show, and the trade show was coming up, and
God.
so you came up with the idea of using the sledgehammer, and so we had to rush and do everything. That was rushed, and it just turned out to be a home run. It really was limited, supposed to be limited initially. It was to make up for the monies that we had lost. We were uninsured at that time. You guys don't know that, but we had been here, we had received the shipment, and a couple of weeks later is when we got broken into. So I didn't have the fire extinguishers and a bunch of stuff. In any event, here we are.
So you show up the next morning.
Yeah, I showed up. My
Did you know at the time? I mean, was there an alarm
no,
or?
my sales director. No alarms went off
Okay.
because the way they bypass that is
Well, don't tell anyone.
you'll see. Well, now they can break in because there's sensors inside the humidor. But,
Now-
That's
now-
right.
now we're
so
covered.
the door you guys walked in through is alarmed. The bay door is
Yeah.
alarmed, and then there's a back door for an alleyway that's alarmed.
Okay.
And but inside the humidor itself, the only way you trigger the alarm is by opening up the humidor door. That's alarmed. If you open up the door, it'll trigger. So I go, the only way you can get there is by coming through here or there or there. And if you're breaking through the roof, you still have to open up that door, and that door's going to trigger, right?
You're right.
Well, what they did is they took a sledgehammer, broke the wall, and cut into the humidor,
Oh my god!
and never opened up.
The little oceans of 13,
That's
14.
freaking
Yeah, exactly.
crazy.
It never opened up the door, so nothing triggered.
It was a full.
And I found out at that time Gabriel Alvarez was my sales director, and Gabriel passed tragically, which sucks. But he was my sales director, and he got a call from one of our neighbors. Hey, there's a bunch of cigars strewn through the alleyway because they had to
What?
rush out. They got spooked at one point. There's
Really?
a bunch of cigars in boxes, and there's a hole in your wall. And I was on my way here. And
Makes you
Gabby
sick.
tells me, and
Yeah.
sure enough, when I parked the car, I walked inside, and when I opened it, it was just empty. 25,000 cigars gone.
Jesus.
we were wiped out.
We were wiped out,
remember-
and we got everything on camera. If you're bored at home, if you Google Casa Cuevas break-in, you'll find YouTube footage of it.
Really?
You'll find news footage of it. Yeah, all the cameras didn't do a damn thing. Got a bunch of guys, with their faces covered in a sledgehammer. Just
At the very
it's
least,
nothing.
it
Nothing.
might have.
Nothing.
Great usage of the sledgehammer
Yeah, I mean that's truth be told. it
for
was
your
one of
cigar,
those
not them
things-
breaking in.
Yeah, right.
He's
Go
out.
figure. Pops, got you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I remember I got the information from my father saying, "Hey, whenever you have the time, swing by the office. Something happened," and I was currently at my university at the time, FIU. I was there. I remember in class, and it was a prep for a particular exam that was really arduous and difficult. And I remember just picking up my backpack, sprinting out the door.
Yeah.
He stopped me and he says, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "There's a family emergency. Something kind of better said, shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to go see what's going on." He goes, "You're gonna miss a lot of important notes." And I was like,
Yeah,
"This
this
is
is
a
more
little
important.
bigger than that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming over here, it was something else. Just to see all the cigars strewn about. A bunch of cigars were thrown on the floor because they did it also in the rain, mind you. So everything on the
Oh,
back that was left.
It was pouring rain that
It's
night. It was
hard
a Sunday
work.
night.
It's everything that went into making those cigars and the kind of the disrespect of seeing that
It is,
all over.
and it made no sense, right? Because we're a small brand now, but we're 5 years into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some recognition. Back then, we were just starting off.
Sure.
So what essentially you're going to do is you're going to take our cigars, unband them,
Yeah.
maybe pass them off as Cubans or whatever it may be.
Oh, I was like,
You know,
how
that
are you
was
gonna
that was
make
probably the
make sense?
idea. But we did the best we could. We got a lot of news stations local to come out, both in Spanish TV and English TV or American TV, and that gave us a lot. And then we immediately went to social media. The idea was to prevent them
Yeah.
Sure.
from easily selling the cigars.
Yeah.
And I don't know how successful we were, but I don't know if you guys know this. We were broken into, you know that. Gurkha, La Galera, Drew Estate,
Aladino.
Aladino.
There's so
They
much.
stole an
Was that
entire container of Opus X's.
Was that the same year that
it
the
wasn't the same year, but over the course of time,
Yeah, okay.
there's been a lot of
Yeah.
break-ins,
yeah
and no one's ever gotten caught.
no
That's crazy.
yeah
I mean, I don't know.
yeah I remember reading the news article specifically about the Opus
Yeah,
Fuente heist. For-
The
I mean,
Opus,
that's what
the
it is.
Opus heist is amazing because they had a container, and the dude showed up. So the bay's open, blah blah blah, and he just hitched up his trailer and took
Drug
off.
it.
And everybody
Yeah.
in the thing goes, "Hey, see ya," because they thought it was part of the delivery thing.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was
just
one of
showed
those
up.
act like you belong, put
Yep.
on an orange vest, and everyone thinks you're.
He hooked it up and he just, "Bye guys," and whoomp, and drove
We'll
off.
take care of it from here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see ya, we got it.
All right, Griff.
The burn construction on all three.
I've been smoking 2, smoking 3. 3 is, I think, more in line with the idea that I have of the blend.
There's a butt coming. I know it.
No. I prefer 2 over 3, but I think 3 is closer to the conceptual idea that I had.
It's just so different.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not your typical Connecticut.
Yeah. And that was the goal. If I had a choice, if I'm sitting down and smoking a cigar, I'm reaching for 2, but 3 is what I wanted. And if that makes any sense.
Surprisingly, it makes sense, but
Thank you. If we can highlight
There you
that.
go. Oh, they're reading the sign.
Ah.
Bye. They
Thank-
can't see us.
oh, that's fun.
Oh, heck
They
yeah.
can't see us.
That happens fairly often. Fairly often. You have a
She
lot of
finally read the
reviews.
sign there. I have to put another sign on this sign, one up there, and I don't know.
There you go. Just
I don't know
sheet
what
the
I'm
door
gonna
with it.
Wow. Yeah, number 3. That
Yeah.
broadleaf is just. Perfect.
Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
So with a cigar like this, what? Obviously, you don't know until you try it. But like, when you have an introduction of something like broadleaf into a Connecticut, obviously you have to be delicate because it can, I imagine, overpower
It can.
the nuances, kind of the softness of a Connecticut.
It can.
When you have as you're doing a test blend or coming up with a new blend, would this cigar particularly do well, say, a Lancero or a Corona? Or does that broadleaf need a little bit more extra filler in something like a 50 or 52?
It's really hard to use it in a Lancero or Corona because it's such a thick leaf. So when you're coming down to, let's say, a 43 or a Flacos, if you use that in it, you're almost left with nothing else to put in.
Gotcha.
It takes up almost the entire thing.
I didn't think about that.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
roll.
Interesting.
Same thing with the KFC. We our broker in California, her birthday's coming up at the end of the month, October 31st, as a matter of fact. So as a gift, she asked for Lanceros from Sangre Nueva, 43s.
Oh, cool.
So she asked for that. And my dad's making 50 of them.
Oh, cool.
Originally, we wanted to make 100. He's making 50 of them. But he goes to me, these are the hardest darn things because of the broadleaf and because of the Kentucky Fire Cured.
Interesting.
He goes, it's almost impossible to roll. So he goes, if anybody comes up to you and says, we want to do
Yeah.
a run of these or whatever, the
Say
answer
no.
is no.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was like Christine doing the Flaco in
Patrimonio.
Patrimonio.
See, that worked.
That was.
That worked. That's the same
That-
idea with this,
that-
but
oh,
it won't.
that's
I'm gonna
ours.
hang on to a few and send you guys some of these because it's going to be really a one and done.
Sure.
love that.
So
That would be
my
amazing.
pops will be bringing him back in a couple of weeks. He flies back on the 21st of October,
Okay.
and then I'm going to send him over to her. So yeah, I'll have you guys. I'll send you guys some.
Did you ever think of a Lancero in that blend?
No. Also due to the fact that
Yeah.
that thing is thick.
Yeah.
I mean, like as
Well,
it
I had
goes-
no idea. I had no idea that it was going to be that doubly difficult.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me. I just go,
Right.
pops, go ahead and make them. And he goes,
Yeah.
whoa. The leaves are
Yeah,
way too
I
thick.
think from the common idiot like Pew and myself, it's like you think all of this stuff can just be whipped up in any size.
Yeah.
And you don't actually think of the leaf itself.
I never thought about. I thought maybe about the strength or the power of the leaf, but not the actual.
Yeah.
The leaf itself is just really thick.
Yeah.
Especially that KFC leaf. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah.
They're enormous and they're really, really thick.
Yeah.
It's
Well-
just one of those things.
There's a cool story about the KFC, by the way. Well, the year Jew Estate launched their KFC, we were making the Sam Lucia Black. You guys remember this at all? So Sam Lucia, he's the one who created the nub and
Yeah.
a really good guy. And so Sam goes over to our factory and he wants to come out with what he's going to call the black. And the white was made in Nicaragua.
Yep.
So we go to a tobacco purveyor, and essentially you're going shopping for ingredients. All they do is sell raw tobacco from all over the world, and they have a section for name the country. So as he's asking for all these different things, they start getting into countries, and he goes, I'm of Italian descent. You guys have Italian tobacco. So the gentleman taking care of us goes, we sure do. Comes out with KFC. I know, it's not Italian, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, what happened was he was selling that tobacco to an Italian company, and they were using it for pipe tobacco.
Oh.
So he assumed it was an Italian customer. It's Italian
Sure.
tobacco.
Yeah.
Sure.
Whatever. So we come back to the office. It smells like barbecue with, dust.
Yeah.
It smells like one big
Yeah.
barbecue. And we started playing with it. Tried it as a wrapper. It doesn't work as a wrapper. It won't hold press. As a binder, it won't hold press. Press is when you roll the cigars, you keep them pressed until they get the shape they're going to get. Well, it would take so long to do so, and the rollers are getting paid per piece.
Yeah.
That it wasn't feasible.
Right.
You'd have to overcompensate or whatever it may be. So that was out, and then we started playing with how to do it on the inside. Well, we came out with a blend for Sam, and the year he was able to launch it at the trade show, whatever it was called back then, IPCPR or
Yeah.
RTDA, whatever it was, that's when Jew Estate had launched theirs simultaneously. But we would have never discovered that tobacco but for a mistake.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
simply a mistake
Interesting.
by the gentleman that said, oh, I had
Yeah.
Italian tobacco.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Like none of us knew it existed.
I haven't smoked that cigar
It's a cool story.
in
Yeah.
years.
And it's a
Very
true story.
Forever.
Yeah. Because he doesn't do that anymore, does he?
No, he's got a subscription
Gotcha.
type thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, we do at the end of every show, we do a question from one of our customers we submit all over. So Griff's going to read that, and we're gonna loft, throw you up a
For
question
getting it to be
here.
upside down. Question of the day, folks.
All right.
Thank you, Daniel Heldreth. Question: different cuts for different vitolas. Punch, V, straight.
Wow. I've heard, not that I'm saying, I've heard that it does make a difference. I normally don't use anything but my fingernail. I don't have much of a fingernail, but whatever I little have.
Yeah.
Just to take off the chupete, the top part, and that's it. I can't speak with authority and tell you that
Yeah.
the cut is going to make a difference on the vitola.
I feel as if it does to a degree.
I've heard it does.
If you look at, for example, let's say your go-to size is a 60 or above in terms of gauge, but you come at it with a punch.
Yeah.
It's going to be much more compact airflow-wise that you're going to be receiving rather than going through a deep V,
Sure.
let's say. But beyond that instance of the punch changing something of that gauge, truth be told, I can't really think of anything else in particular that really changes it enough to the point where the blend itself comes at you from a different angle, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that with a tapered end like a Perfecto or a Torpedo, I gravitate towards a deep V.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way that the cigar cuts in that. I get a little bit more surface area.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, with a torpedo, you certainly can't do what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm using a straight cut on a Torpedo, I'll do like an angle or something like that.
Yeah,
just
me
because
too.
it gives me a
Me too.
little
I
bit
do
better
like
of a
this
draw.
angle,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And it used to be I do V cuts all the time, and now I've gravitated
Yeah.
back towards straight cuts. It just
Simplistic.
no rhyme or reason, and I'll if I'm
I can't
feeling
even.
it,
I
I'll
can't even
grab a
keep
V
my
cut.
regular cutters, nonetheless. These specialty cutters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just whatever I'm feeling, just whatever I'm reaching.
I've noticed
for, but-
when you're lighting these cigars, you're using matches. Is there anything on that end?
No, I mean, I've lit cigars with citronella candles,
Yeah. Okay.
and at first it tastes like
first.
citronella. It tastes
Citronella on a
awful.
Candela wrapper.
Yeah. By the way, that's a wrapper I just can't get through.
I don't.
Candela,
I can't drink.
I
Can't smoke
can't.
Candelas.
I can't. But anyway, different segue here.
Yeah, different podcast.
And I've lit them with citron because I had nothing else handy, and I'm outside. I'm lazy. I don't want to go inside the house and whatever.
Wow.
So I'll do it, and at first it tastes like crap, and after a couple minutes it becomes a cigar.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like to say and be real cool, and we have cedar sticks here.
Yeah. So
Right, you
I
can
didn't
light the
actually see
cedar
those.
stick and everything else, and it smells
It's a
really
lot
good.
of work.
Yeah, it's just a lot.
I just want to smoke my cigar.
I just want to smoke.
There's
my
just
cigar.
so many theories and
I don't know. I've heard that if you light it with the match and you don't let it get to the wood, then what you're getting that sulfur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
at first a little bbit, but
yeah,
I don't.
maybe for 30
It's subjective,
seconds.
and if
I mean, I could sit there and
if you
BS
like
everybody,
one
but I
way,
don't want to.
you go that way. You don't, to each their own. As long as at the end of the day you're smoking a cigar, enjoying the cigar, whether it be friends by yourself. That's the important part.
I've
nice way
even
of
lit
putting it.
cigars back to back, with another cigar.
Yeah. Well, I think we have officially declared Blend 3 is going to be the winner,
That's cool.
and we're gonna
That's easy to
do this
remember.
in something.
What's your preference? You don't have to say number 3.
Truth be told, mind you, my nose runs all the time when I retrohale like a crap ton of cigars. This is like a common thing for me, sinus wise. It's a tough one because I agree with David in relation to number 2. I love the creamy factor that it brings, and that floral note is something different that you can pick
It
up
is.
on that retro. But number 3, on the other hand, carrying more of that medium bodied in relation to the Connecticut itself, does also bring something new to the table in relation to something that's like savory. Like I can picture myself having this Connecticut after a good lunch.
Yeah.
Whereas number 2, it's a great morning smoke.
Yeah.
Bottom dollar, I'd say for complexity purposes, I'd go ahead and I'd say number 3 personally.
I
think you're leaning number 2.
Yeah.
He's thinking number 2.
I'd like number 2, but 3 certainly works. I'm curious to smoke 3
Yeah,
in a Toro,
Yeah.
and we have apples to apples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
it will be.
Although
Interesting.
Robusto, as I said earlier, is
It's a
my
great size.
my go-to. It's the
Yeah.
one I go to in all our entire lineup.
Sure.
If I have a choice, it's always a Robusto.
It's like one of those that you just know.
So classic.
Yeah. You just know if a blend's not going to smoke well in a Robusto, you're going to have some issues.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe not, but usually
Yeah,
probably the
usually
case.
it's
more often than not.
Yeah.
pretty steadfast.
Guys, thanks so much for having us.
Yes. Thank you very much.
This was
Thank
awesome.
you guys.
wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you
Truth
so
be
much.
told,
This
is
was
a treat
awesome.
and a
This
half.
was really cool.
And we
It's
normally
about as
don't-
laid back as
That's
any,
what it's all
any
about.
podcast I've ever done. This is great.
That's what it's all about. Well, thank you all again for tuning in. Until next time, happy smoking.
Cheers.